To open the broadcast.
No, we just opened with a beautiful rooster crow, and this is Ann White from the Chicken Show, and I am here with the Chicken Chick, and we have been looking forward to this and some roosters. So Kathy Shea Mormino is outside. Kathy, welcome to the Chicken Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Ann.
Oh, and you are in Connecticut, right? So it's still kind of nippy.
I'm just laughing because that is Silvio, my silver-laced Wyandotte, and he never crows. He crowed his first crow maybe a month or two ago, and we haven't heard from him since. And now he's all about, I'm online, I'm live. It's hysterical, and it's still sort of a weak crow that he needs to work on. He's a big boy. Can you see him?
Yeah, and maybe he's trying to be discovered. You know, he's going to look at him. He needs to be discovered. Yeah, can you see him right in the middle, walking around? So that's, what's his name? Silvio? Uh-huh. And what do you have for chickens? Can you? I see a couple of buildings, so those are probably your coops. Can you sort of give us a little bit of a tour from where you're sitting, showing us what you have?
Sure. This coop is the quail coop my husband built, and there aren't any quail in it at this time. I'm sort of out of the quail business. I wasn't wildly fond of quail, but I am wildly fond of the coop, and that works for broody hens, raising their chicks, and timeouts and that sort of thing. So it's a good backup to have. A backup coop, silly. A grow out coop too. I could put youngsters in there as they're growing out. The coop behind that is the Little Deuce coop, and my husband built that too, and that's our second coop that we acquired. The coop behind, right in the back, the red one with the welcome sign on it, is our original coop, and we bought that. It arrived about a week before our baby chicks did, and we've made lots of modifications to it since. I have yet to find a prefab coop that has all of the specifications that I think work best in a coop. But even with the coop that my husband built, we're still constantly making changes and modifications, upgrades, tweaks, depending on what's going on in the flock at the time. So,
about your flock, yeah, what kind of? We see quite a few of your flock out there, and we hear one of them. What kind of? What's your flock like?
It has a gray squirrel in it currently. Poor guy. I feel bad for the wild animals. There's just nothing going on out there food-wise, so I don't blame him for coming in for some scratch.
Nice.
What is my flock like?
Yeah, who do you have? How many? And
I have
one rooster that we know of.
I have 5 roosters. How many are out here now? 3 of them are out here now. Blaze is my black copper Morans, and he's right in the middle of the lane back there where he usually is. He's really the best guard dog of the coop, and he's the oldest. He's probably going to be getting some challenges from the younger fellas, not in the not too distant future, for that top spot. But he's just a sweetheart. All my roosters are sweethearts. Well, let me say Frederick, the little guy. He's a little Cerama. He and his father, Caesar, are Ceramas. They're in the basement right now. Frederick has frostbite, and so he and his father got into it a couple days ago, so I figured I would bring them both into the basement while Frederick recovered from his frostbite, and be nice. And so that they could sort of bond, hoping they might bond and just become less contentious with one another. So that was a theory that actually worked out when I had my last shift of frostbite victims in the basement last week and for the past month. I had 3 of the 5 roosters in the basement, and when the weather warmed up for a day, I'd let them all go out in the flock, and they were all fine except for Frederick with Caesar. So everyone else was fine. There were no challenges to the pecking order, and things were good. So I was a little concerned about that because it hasn't gone swimmingly in the past with reuniting roosters. So that was a good thing. But so where's the third rooster out here? Who is it? Oh, Chevy. He's a white, a light Sussex, and he's a big guy. I don't know where he is right now, but he's pretty mellow, low key. And I'm looking for Rachel because I'm going to see if I can't get her to say hello. She tends to hide underneath the little coop. Something's up. Do you see?
Yeah, they've all gone to investigate.
Yeah, but when they all get quiet and listen like that, that's usually a sign something is going on in the sky above.
So that's time for Mom. That's time for you, Kathy, to keep your eyes out too, I imagine.
Yeah. But there have been a lot of blue jays around, and the blue jays tend to keep the hawks at bay, which is good. We encourage blue jays in our yard.
And so the two topics, and they both segue beautifully, is frostbite and winter, how to keep your flock safe during the winter, and then whatever's going on watching their predators. Those are two things I'd love to pick your brain about because I've known you've written the articles on them and you live it. So do you want to start with winter since you're sitting there in snow?
It's actually...
You've had a bad winter this year, haven't you?
It's been brutal. It's been brutal. The meteorologist on local television said that this is the worst month in the history of record keeping in Connecticut for cold and snow. And the temperatures have just been bitterly cold and brutal on the flock. I mean, the guys with the big combs, you can put gasoline on it, bag bomb, what have you, but the fact of the matter is, when it's that cold, even if coops are in, the best possible state, meaning you have good ventilation, they're clean and dry, they're going to get frostbite because they come out of the coops during the day and not necessarily outside. This is the first time the flock has been outside for more than 15 minutes in a very long time. But it's, cold exposure is exposure, and you can limit it the best you can, but it's been a tough winter. So when we notice the first signs of frostbite, we go ahead and bring the fellas in, and it's invariably the fellas. I don't think I've had a hen with frostbite, and I think it's because the fellas tend to put themselves out there in a place to be exposed to more of the cold and sometimes the wind. I mean, I try not to let them out when it's really really bitterly cold or windy, but the fellas, a little conflict. So you can, there are things you can do to make your coop winter-proof so that the flock doesn't suffer from frostbite. But when the rubber hits the road, if it's super cold, you're going to have some victims occasionally. The best thing is just...
What do you do, Kathy, when you bring them in to help with the frostbite? Is there something you put on their combs, or is it just a matter of time?
Well, the main thing is to get them out of the cold, and it doesn't have to be into a 60, 70-degree house. It just needs to be above freezing. And frostbite's painful, as you might imagine. And so bringing them out of the cold prevents more frostbite from happening, further damage from the tissues from happening. And I put vetericin wound infection spray on the combs to keep it clean, because secondary infection is the real concern after they're out of the cold, and that it's not going to be, their tissues aren't going to be damaged further. So keeping it clean and staving off infection is huge with frostbite recovery. So other than that, keeping them away from each other so that they don't peck the comb or the wattles, excuse me, and that's a major danger, because as frostbite is healing,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes there are blistering phases, and it's awful, and drying out and blackening, and so there's healing going on underneath the nasty tissue, but the nasty tissue is attractive to other chickens, so you have to keep them away from each other or it will never heal. So, and even when they're by themselves, it can bleed. If they knock into the cage, the combs, it's horrible. Yeah, frostbite's wicked. So it's been a rough winter for that.
You do any extra bedding for them in the winter? Or what are your thoughts about the warmth inside the coop? You keep it natural, without any heaters or anything like that? There's always controversy. Heat lamps, heaters, those kind of things.
Yeah, I'm a safety fan, so I am against the brooder heat lights, and I don't have major objections to taking the edge off of sub-zero temperatures in the winter, and I do that with flat panel radiant heaters or oil-filled heaters in my coop, and it's not to make the chickens cozy. It's not to make them. It's not to bring the coop temperatures up to 40 or 50 degrees. I have the coop doors. Excuse me. The coop doors open right now. It's 30 degrees out. The coop doors are open. It's 50 degrees in there with no heat right now, just from solar heating, and a massive layer of insulation on top of the coop. So it's not necessary to make the chickens make their environment warm like we would like it to be. Their body temperature is already much higher than ours. If our body temperature became their body temperature, we would be dead. So their body temperature ranges normally between 104 and 107 degrees, and so they don't really need our help for the most part, unless it gets into the brutal frigid temps. And then even most breeds will do fine. Silvio, being a Wyandotte, he's got all those feathers that he can puff out from his body and trap warm air against his body and regulate his own temperature. So he'll do fine. The Ceramas are less feathered, for example. They're not considered they're not considered a cold hardy breed. But I have any number of cold hardy breeds in my flock, and they do fine. Frida is my oldest flock member. She's almost 6, and she's a silky.
Mm-hmm.
And a little mating going on. Shield your eyes. They would make pretty babies, though. That's Lola and Silvio, and they're both white and black, and I am curious about how that would look. But anyway, I digress.
Find out. And it happened here when the chicken chick came to the chicken show.
50 shades of white and black. So where were we? We were talking about no idea.
Their feed the same?
The feed? Yep, the feed is the same.
Yeah,
They will eat more in the winter to fuel the furnace that is their internal, body. The feed is the same. I'm trying to think what else is different.
Well, that I think about covers it.
Sorry, you asked about bedding. I use sand in my coops for bedding.
I wonder what kind of sand, because I've been reading about that. Is it construction sand you use, or?
I use construction grade wash sand, which is a sand that has a variety of particle sizes in it and has been washed at the facility. And some people use river sand, which is fine too. You just don't want the sand that is artificially produced. It's artificial sand. It's manufactured by crushing granite. Is it granite? I think it's granite. Yeah, I think that's right. But in any event, it's not natural sand. You don't want that because it's much finer and it's much more dusty, and it contains a much higher percentage of silica dust, which you don't want. All sand has silica. It's naturally occurring in the earth, and That's normal. But you want the larger particle sizes, and it's great for them. When the sun's out like this, which isn't too often lately, but when the sun's out and the coop gets warmed up, the sand is going to retain the heat better than other bedding sources. It's not going to harbor mites like straw can. It's not going to mold like straw can. It desiccates the droppings. I use droppings boards in my coops, so I don't have a lot of droppings on the sand in the coop, which makes a big difference in the wintertime. Getting all that poop out gets all that moisture in the poop out of the coop, which is important to avoiding frostbite. But I love sand. I was super skeptical about it when someone suggested it to me early on in my chicken keeping. But the only downside to me is that it's heavy, and it's difficult to replace. We only change it out once a year, but it's it's heavy, and so it's a pain to replace. But I don't have to move it in and out of the coop like I used to with shavings every week or 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, that's great information, because I know on a lot of the chicken groups they're always talking about bedding, and sand would be good, but this has been great about your experience with sand.
Yeah, I like it. It's dusty too, but I found shavings to be dusty, and chickens are dusty, so it's a little more dust. And it's great in the winter because they can dust bathe in the coop or in the run, and not too many other litter choices provide that opportunity. I mean, it's not that fun it's not that fun or useful to dust bathe in shavings unless you're a chick,
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Kathy, let's switch to predators. That's a common thing with chicken. People who like their chickens to free range. There are all sorts of. What are your advice for different kinds? Because I guess we have the ground predators and the air predators.
I'm just going to stand. I'm just going to try to encourage the chickens to come over here with a little more scratch. Come on, guys. What would you like to know about predators?
How do you keep your flock safe? What do you do about hawks?
They're the worst. Here's Rachel. Come on, Rach. Want to see if I can catch her? Just see me humiliate myself.
What color is Rachel?
Sorry?
What color is she, so we can look in the flock and see?
What color is she? You don't know Rachel?
No. Oh, yeah, I do from all the pictures. Yeah. Oh, yeah, my coffee buddy.
Exactly. Here's Lazy. Blaze hasn't been out in a while. My God.
Yeah, the coffee buddy. That's the Rachel. Okay.
There she is. Say hello, Rach. So we were talking about predators. Do you want to talk about predators, Rach? Not so much.
Yeah. Rach, we'll get the coffee in a minute, but predators before coffee.
My chicken's free range all year long, again, unless it's uber cold and windy. And so it has been a challenge to protect them from all kinds of predators. We have coyotes, we have bobcats, we have bears. We have it all back here. You can't see right now, but there are 270 270 acres of woodlands and a hunting preserve behind us. So maybe 2 years ago, we put up just a really rudimentary 4-foot fence around the property, and amazingly, remarkably, that has kept out all of those critters. I think it just makes it's just they have to really want to get in. Clearly a bobcat or a coyote can climb over a 4-foot fence. The question is, are they motivated enough to do that when there are other chickens down the road that they could get to more easily, or other woodland animals. So they don't seem as committed to getting in as um, as easily as they could. So the fence is good for the walking critters by and large. Raccoons and opossums, they can still all get in, but those are only concerns for free range birds during the day. You shouldn't have predator loss at night, because you should be able to predator-proof your chicken coop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll put them all to bed at night.
Not only putting them to bed, but making sure that your coop is secured properly with the right not fencing. What's the word? The hardware cloth.
Mm-hmm.
Using hardware cloth instead of chicken wire to close up any spaces that you have around the coop and in the run. Any way that a critter can, weasels, for example, we have weasels around here, fisher cats, ooh, they're horrible, and they can get through very small spaces, less than 2 inches. So anything that is an inch or two wide of an opening, a critter can get through. So you have to secure it with hardware cloth. You have to secure all the windows with hardware cloth. And by secure it, I don't mean staple it. I mean use screws and washers and lock those bad boys down, because, what do you see, Blaze? There's a squirrel. He's a very alert rooster. Locks. Raccoons can unlatch basic door handles. They can unlatch basic door locks. So you always want to have at least a 2-step latch to secure your birds at night. So, and unfortunately, 2-legged critters, people are a problem in some areas too. So, some people may need to actually lock their chicken coops at night. I don't have to do that around here, but
I would think, Kathy, that hawks would be one of the harder things, because it's daytime, and you could just be right there and turn your back for a second, or you're working in one coop, and so I would think that's almost impossible to protect. Are there things to do for hawks?
Yes and no. No, the visual decoys are not going to do anything. I've tried them all. Again, we have bald eagles and hawks of all sorts, owls around here, all kinds of raptors, and particularly this time of year, they're hungry, and there's no foliage on the trees. They can see very well what they're looking to consume. So an owl decoy, flashing, pinwheels, a radio on. I mean, these are all things that you can try and can't hurt, but it has not been my experience that they are useful at all. So, it's a good idea to provide spots for the chickens to dash underneath. When roosters are wonderful, because they alert the hens to. I mean, you've heard several times the roosters are alerting to things that they're concerned about. More often than not, well, there are different alert sounds. So some are more serious than others, and they know the difference. So they'll book into the coop if they hear the serious alert sound from the boys. But so roosters are good for an early warning system. But the fact of the matter is, hawks are smart and hungry and have superior vision. So none of these tricks work. If you are concerned that you're not going to be able to cope with flock losses to predation, the chickens need to be confined 24/7, and that means fully confined behind hardware cloth, overhead as well, because and not just with chicken wire or larger types of fencing, because hawks and raccoons can reach right through larger holes and pull chickens to their demise, and that's not an uncommon situation. So Flocks are tough.
Balance, yeah. Before we run out of time, I would love to talk about Rachel. She is, even though I didn't connect when you said that, I recognize her as my coffee buddy because I am a coffee person. And I love all the pictures you take of her. So how do you give her pictures? Does she just pose? Do you have posing days? Or?
Yeah, they're going somewhere. Something's up. No, she's not. She is not a fan of being photographed. I just have to be quick about it, and I spend a lot, as much time in the backyard as I can.
And we're listening to see what they're alluding to.
Yep. I tend to believe them when they talk.
Yeah. And if you need to go save a life or anything, just dash. I'll take over.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry about that.
I bet you will, yeah.
Off the phone more than once.
What's it like being the chicken chick? You are famous world over with anyone who has chickens. You're a treasure trove of all things chicken. How do you, there's only 24 hours in a day, and you have a family, and you have a new puppy. How does it all work? How do you get all the wonderful things done that you do and have such a healthy flock? What's your life like?
It's sleepless in Suffield. I guess that's how I describe it. Yeah, I don't sleep as much as I used to. I feel blessed that I'm able to work from home. I was a stay-at-home mom before chickens came along, and that was always the plan. That this chicken business, if you will, started just as an egg carton label design business that was never intended to become anything bigger than a couple hours a week. And I just really sort of stumbled across doing that because I wanted egg carton labels that were customized for my own eggs that I gave to my friends and family. So the business, the egg carton labels business thing started all of this, and it just sort of evolved on its own. I didn't have a plan to blog, to be on Facebook. All of the social media channels were started in an effort to market the egg carton labels, and I was really against blogging. I didn't feel like I had anything that I needed people to know about me or my life, but I sort of found my voice, and my sort of mission with all of this was to collect all of the information from various sources, distill it down to the important sort of take-home messages for people who didn't have the time to do all the research that I did, and to give it to them in sort of bite-sized pieces and actionable information, stuff that they can put to work in their own coops and in their own flocks. And that's since the first 6 months of my blog, that was sort of the format, and it's been that ever since, and it's been working.
And, as a new chicken or a new mother clucker, you were the go-to person, whenever there was a question. So I thank you for all of the work that you did, because it was able to, check the chicken chick. She's got it. You ask anybody, ask the chicken chick. That's a little hard to say, Kathy. I'm getting better at saying it. I was having trouble before. It didn't sound very nice when I said it at first.
Chicken chick?
Chicken chick. But I got my chicken.
Fun. Crazy chicken lady, not so much.
Yeah.
That was the term. That was the nickname I objected to. That's where the chicken chick came from. My brothers would call me crazy chicken lady, and I took exception to that. And that's where the whole chicken chick came from.
And I've learned how to say chicken chick. You got it right. I got it. But thank you so much. Where do you think your chickens went to now? They got another place that they just go and?
Oh, let's see. They're in the runs. Wow,
okay.
His feathers look fabulous. He was in the basement for a while, and he had just finished molting. Chick, chick. Here, guys. Rachel's like, let me have at it. They might know something I don't, but I don't think so. I'm sure they know a lot of things that I don't, but here they come. Probably just going to get a beverage. Who knows?
So, Kathy, anytime people want to find you, it's as simple as chickenchick.com. It's all there. Your website, sign up for the newsletters, your giveaways, all at chickenchick.com.
It's the chicken-chick.com.
Okay, but just so you know, when you do a Google search and you were putting chicken chick, you're there.
There I am.
So, okay, otherwise you have to put your hyphens in. But that Google knows you very well.
They do. We're old friends, Google and I.
Yeah.
Join me on Facebook, too. That's where all the fun happens. Oh, see that little rooster drama.
Yeah, and your newsletter is great. So anybody who is interested, sign up for that newsletter because although, there's the Facebook thing, too, it's kind of nice to come in your mail and get a little reminder as well. So I thank you for taking time. I know your day is busy, but even to sit outside and share a little bit about what your life is like. Really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for your interest in it, and thanks for following. I appreciate it, Ann.
Oh, yeah, like I say, I'm a big fan, And just when I was telling, we have a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers today, even watching us live, which is really nice. And then they'll be able to catch us on YouTube. So everybody, that chicken chick is sitting out in Connecticut, flapping her feathers. And thank you. I know Glozell does not have lips, but when she was wearing lipstick on her beak, it kind of looked like she had lips.
Chickens do not have lips, Ann. I hate to break it to you.
But thank you. I got that now. Okay. Take care. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Ann. You too. Bye, everybody.